Hello there, it's Jay here from Jay's Vintage Junk, and today I thought we'd actually get on and have a look at this. Now, if you watch my videos regularly, you'll have seen this before. I picked this record player and another one up just before Christmas, you know, I think it was in November before Christmas, and that's when I started feeling rather unwell and I basically didn't do anything with them. I've done a quick video on the two just showing what they were really. If you remember back from that video, the other player basically works, but this is dead. There is no signs of life from this record player whatsoever. It's a little bit of an unusual player. It isn't English, it's French. And it's basically a French version of his master's voice. I believe someone did say to me it was a licensing agreement between was it Marconi and someone in France and EMI I think in America or something like that, and that's one of the interesting things about this player and why I think it's quite unusual, especially for it being in the UK, is it's got a US style turntable on it, complete with the big 45 adapter for like the jukebox style wide centered 45s. That fits in there like that, and I've never played with a record player with this kind of deck on it. That's one of the reasons actually I grabbed this thing when I saw it. And if you remember, if you have watched the previous video, you'll also know that I did attempt to try and get the record deck out so we could actually see possibly what's wrong with it. Like I said, this thing is completely dead. And I failed to, in that video, quickly remove the deck. So I suppose that's the first place we're going to have to start looking, is basically how do we get this turntable out of here so then we can access the amplifier, we can access the wiring and actually find out why this thing is completely stone dead. I mean, completely stone dead. There was no activity from the turntable, there was no hum from the speaker or anything. I couldn't see any of the valves that you can just about see down that little gap there trying to light up or anything. This thing was stone dead. Now, the first problem I've got is I haven't got the foggiest how you actually get this turntable out. It's slightly loose in the back corner there, and I can lift it up there, but everything else seems solid. It's not undoing them two screws because they, although they all hold the amplifier section in, there's actually some more buried right down there that you can't really, I don't think, get to. So I don't think that's it. I'm wondering if it is something to do with these four little things we've got in the corner there. Now, off camera, like I said, I have played with this a little bit, and I have tried turning these and pulling, seeing if there's like a release. So I've got hold of them with some pliers like that and tried twisting and pulling to see if that does anything. But I'm just worried about actually perhaps breaking one doing that. But I'm guessing that the key to getting this deck off is... oh. Okay. So perhaps they just pull out. I've even had a look, so you'll see if I could see some restorers in America that are more familiar. Yeah, these just pull out. Let's see if that's how we release it. To see if I could see anything on a player they were working on, but I've never seen one even in the US mounted like this with these things. It just seems to be, all the ones I've looked at have been mounted like more conventionally, like we'd find over here. Oh, there we go, that's out. Now, has that released the turntable? Oh. Ah. Haha. So they're like do I have to... let me see if I can get my head in there and see what's going on. Right, okay. I think what I need to do, I might have made a mess of that one. I think I can fix it though. I think what you have to do, these are, I've never come across a mounting like these. Let me get you over a little bit so you can see. And I'll get you down so you can see. You can't see in there, can you? Can you see in there if I get you down? Yeah. We'll work on that one there. If you can look at that, that's the rubber there. And I think what you have to do, I take something that we're not going to damage the rubber with, and I think you literally have to just collapse it and push it through. I think we'll probably have to pull up on the deck while we do this. This is slightly tricky, it's not very easy to get hold of, but I think if we lift that up and then push, there we are, that's out. And I'll do the last one, and I think we might be able to lift this deck out finally, and then we can see what's going on underneath it. So I'll do the same thing, I'll just use these. There we are. Get you back out a little bit so you can see a bit more what's going on. Right, there we are. So we've actually got the deck free. Unfortunately, them rubbers don't feel in too terrible a condition, because I'm sure you would not be able to find replacements for them. We've had one. Oh, hang on, how are we connected? Let's lie that back like that so we can actually have a look what we've got in here. Right. Well, we've had one of those come off in the wrong place. It should still be attached to the mount down there, but I'm pretty certain we can fix that. There's slightly ominously a couple of them just lying around randomly in the bottom of the case. That is basically going to the power selector on the deck. The wiring for the motor and everything is also on there. So I'm guessing that's how it's getting its AC through those wires there. Up to the, to the switch. So could that be our issue? Or them to this? No, that's this is weird. Oh, so we've got a capacitor there that'll need replacing. There's the switch, I think. There's the pickup. And we've got... this is interesting. Because when you've not worked on... we've even got a label in the bottom here. Production Pathé Marconi. And it's designed for 110 to 220 volts at 50 Hz, so at least it's going to run at the right frequency. Right. What I need to figure out... Okay. So obviously it powers up the deck when you lift the arm, because that switch there is actuated by you lifting the arm up. But we're not getting even that far. Right, let me see if I can get the amplifier out of this now, and then we can take a look at the actual amplifier on the bench. Let's see what I can... I need a flat blade screwdriver for this. Let's see if I'll do it. It's a bit small, but it should get them out. Okie dokie. And then there's two more which you couldn't get to before. And then we should be at least be able to get the amplifier out. This is quite an amplifier as well for a record player. Just looking at what I can see straight away, this is something a bit tasty, a bit nice. Right, okay. Now let's see if we can get the amplifier out. Right, the mains is actually, there is actually a retaining clip on the mains lead, so let's get that out. I don't think we'll be getting this fully working today, but it would be nice to see if we can get the amplifier maybe to power up and at least see what we can get to work. But first we've got to find out, like I said, why it is dead. Right. That's the mains cable free, and that will be being changed if we can get this thing working for something with an earth. Being this has got a proper double wound mains transformer in it by the look of it. Now let's see if we can get right. That's the amplifier free. And we've got loose wooden blocks in here which are going to need some work. We've got all sorts of nastiness. Oh, this is nasty. Yeah, we've got a capacitor there that spewed its guts, and it's a big one. Right, what I'll do, I will disconnect the speaker, because I think I'll probably leave this speaker in the cabinet for now. I can probably just snip those. We can leave the actual speaker in the cabinet. We are, oh dear, there's all sorts in the bottom of here. We've got, this doesn't bode too well. Got another screw there. That doesn't look like it's actually part of this record player. We've got a nut there, another nut which has come off something, so that needs putting to one side because that might be part of something. So that's 3 nuts that we've got and a couple of screws. One of them screws might be something to do with this, one probably isn't by the look of it. Right, let's get the cabinet out of the way and we can actually address what we have got. So let me lift this up and out of the way, and then we can move, because I mean the cabinet is, apart from them little blocks that have come free, the cabinet actually looks in pretty nice condition. Its outside material on it is in really nice condition. Sorry, you just have to bear with me a second while I just lift this down. Oops, there we go. Put that on the floor. And we can spread this out here and we can have a proper look at what we've got. Right. So, there we go. So we've got our deck and we've got our amplifier here. Now I have a feeling that this thing's probably been ran rather hot. In fact, there is some signs of distress on both transformers there. Simple fact behind this was designed to run on 220 volts AC. In the UK, we're running it on 240 volts AC. So it is always being slightly overrun. There are possibly some things we may be able to do to address that to some extent. We'll have to check voltages basically when we actually get to that point. But like I said, at the moment this thing is completely dead. A quick look underneath, and we have a few horrors here. That capacitor there has completely spewed its guts, if you can see here, so I'm sure the last time this thing ran it had a pretty horrendous mains hum on it. There's lots of capacitors in here which, you know, first look don't look like what we normal, you don't see any hunts in here, you don't see any wax paper or anything, but believe me, these are all scrap. They're just as bad as our capacitors. You know, people say, oh, the old wax paper capacitors and the old Hunt's mole seal capacitors weren't very reliable. any capacitor after 60, 70 years, yeah, they're all failing these. I've worked on French radios before that I've had that have actually had this style of capacitor in them, and again every single one of them was bad, but they are an interesting design, and when I pull one out I'll show you one of them up a little bit more closely. So we've definitely got an issue there. I think all these will probably need changing. That one will definitely need changing. Like I said, it's spewed its guts everywhere. What's that? It's 32 UF at 450 volts. What have we got there? That's a 50 UF at 350 volts. Or something a little bit smaller here. What's this one? Oh, that's a 10. It's a 10 UF at 12 volts, so that's a low voltage, probably cathode bypass or something like that maybe. Right, what have we got valve wise? Let's start over here. Obviously, with it being next to the power transformer, that's going to be our rectifier, and it is. That's an EZ80. It's branded Miniwatt and Dario, which I'm not familiar with. Well, that's a standard EZ80 we've got there. I do like the fact that they've got these little retaining clips on them as well. I mean, that shows they were thinking this is a portable appliance, it's going to get moved around, these are going to come loose. You don't see that in every record player. I've seen quite a few where they've just gone for goodwill really to hold them in place. Let's see what the output valve is. I'm guessing this is going to be something like a EL84. Let's see what we've got. Yep, and we've got a 6BQ5, which is an EL84. And that's the Bellevue, which again I haven't seen before. It doesn't seem to be particularly worn either. I wonder if this didn't have a whole amount of use. I'll plug that back in. Okay, and finally this will be whatever is being used as preamplifier. And what are we using? Unfortunately, I can't actually read what the valve is, because there's a big black blob right over where the I'll see if it'll wipe off, but it might just wipe the print of the valve off. See if we can uncover what it is. No. I think I can see an A at the end, like there. It's almost as though they've wanted to hide what that valve is. It looks like they've rubbed off the part number actually behind where it says where that blob was. I'd say if it weren't for the fact that the it's not the right base, I'd say something like an EF86. But it's got the wrong base for an EF86. So we're going to have to figure out what they're using as the preamplifier valve there. But it's fairly simple, this amplifier. It is a nice amplifier, but we've got basically a rectifier, a preamplifier, and then a power output valve. And that's pretty much it. It's fairly simple, but it's, you know, fairly decently done, if you know what I mean. Now those two things there, which I thought might be inputs, aren't. They just rub. They seem to be like rubber grommets. They don't actually go anywhere. Those there on the top are actually external speaker outputs, which actually, when you plug your speaker in, mutes the internal speaker. That's quite nice. What we will do, let's do a few basic checks on this thing. See if the volume, the on switch is actually working, because that could be the reason that we're not actually getting any power through, is the simple fact that the on volume control there could be bad. Let's get a continuity buzzer in. We'll do some first quick basic checks. Right, so what we'll do is we'll go across that volume control, the switch on the volume control, sorry. We'll try switching that on. So we know we've got the switches working. Just make sure we've got actual continuity between the plug and that should be neutral, is it? Yeah, and here's the live, which should go into there. Should find it over here. Switch the switch on, we should find it on this side, which we do. Follow that wire back underneath that nasty capacitor. Let me just see if we can tip this back a bit. We want to find where that wire goes back, which is here. Okay, so that goes back to there. We've got one of them capacitors then from the mains to ground, so that would need that. If yeah, that's not going to be good. That's liable to go pop. Let us see if we've got continuity on the primary on the mains transformer then. So we go from, where is our neutral there? No. No, we haven't. That's not good. So unfortunately, it looks like we've got a bad primary on the mains transformer there. Now, unfortunately, that's not all that surprising with this record player. Like I said, this was designed to run between 110 and 220 volts. Anything could have happened in the past. Someone could have, not for the simple fact that this thing is obviously, if it's been used in the UK for a long time, it's had a 20 volts over voltage on it all that time. But what could quite easily have happened, especially with having a voltage selector like that, you can literally just pull out like that, spin round, put back in like that, and the machine's now set to run on 110 volts. And I'm wondering if that's what's happened to this. Someone's been messing about with it, not knowing what that did, pulled it out, stuck it back in, tried the record player and put 240 volts across a primary, which was set up to run on 110 volts. I think they've smoked the primary on that. What I will look at next then, so at the very least, if we want to get this record player working again, we're going to have to change the transformer in it. The advantage of that is if I use a transformer which is actually designed for a piece of equipment that was sold in the UK, the transformer will have a primary which is actually designed for 240 volts, which will obviously make the player a lot better. But what I want to check first is, because this would be the end of this record player as far as I'm concerned. Have we got continuity on the windings on the motor there? Let me just get this up like that so we can see. I'll get you up a little bit. Now this motor again it's not your standard motor you'd find on a UK player. It's not like your Garrad or your BSR motors. You can see we've got two huge great motor start capacitors there. It's quite an odd beast, that motor, actually. Let's see if it's free to turn. It is nice and free to, in fact it's very nice and free to turn. Oh, that's lovely. Let us see if we've got any life in the windings. If we've got life in the windings, we might be able to do something with this record player. If that motor's scrap, to be honest, I think this thing's probably not worth pursuing, because I don't know where the hell I would get a replacement motor for this. Right, moment of truth. We've got a centre tap there. Let's have a look. So one winding's good. Let's try the other one. And that winding's good. So there's no reason why we can't get that to run. I don't like the fact there's nylon in here and all sorts, and like rubber bushings. That's gone completely. But we've got rubber bushings in the mechanism, which you know, the rubber's perished. That's part of it over there. Yeah, that should be like one bushing round there. That might be difficult to repair. I won't give up with this thing. I would really like to see this thing play, but it's going to be a bit of a challenge. It's not going to be a quick, simple fix, this record player. But now I've actually got into it and had a good look at it. So the first thing I'm probably going to have to do is find something to replace that with. Fortunately, with how simple this amplifier is, we're going to need what, about 200 volts on the HT. We'll need a 6.3 volt filament winding, and that's about it. So I'll have to have a rummage about in my spares and my junk and see if I can find a suitable transformer out of a piece of scrap equipment that we can replace that with. I think the plan of action probably will be we'll replace that. I do have a nice piece of equipment behind me there that we could possibly try the rest of this by subbing that with a HT power supply, and just make sure that the rest of the amplifier is actually good. That might be a possibility. Not for this video, because I just wanted to do a quick tear down of this thing, and at least if I could get it apart, which obviously we have done, and find out what's actually wrong with it. And yeah, we've probably got a well, we've certainly got a bad transformer there. We also haven't had the motor spin yet, but it's likely we've got an issue with those capacitors. If they're bad, then the motor won't start. Even if those are good, we've got that switch up there, which basically, that switch is what turns the actual motor on. So, in fact, that's something we could just quickly try, see if we've got any continuity on that switch. If we go, make sure that's switched on there, which it is, and we go onto the live here. Let's see where we can find it. Okay, it's there. It's there. So it looks like that switch is closed. Let's see if I can get this so I can, let's hold that there. Okay. If I get my fingers in here, So the switch is actually working. That turns the motor on when you lift the arm. That's working. But obviously, like I said, we've had no signs of life whatsoever actually out of the motor. So I'm guessing we've probably got an issue with those motor start capacitors there. Like I say, if those aren't working, the motor isn't going to fire up. Right, I don't think there's a huge more amount I can actually do at the moment with this thing. I'm going to leave it there for now. You will definitely be seeing this record player again, don't worry. But what I wanted to really do in this, like I say, this was just a case of let's diagnose what actual issues we've got with the record player. We've got a few. We've got a fair few little things we're going to have to sort out with this thing. But I think it's probably going to be worth it, even if it is just to hear it play. I'm intrigued how that deck's going to work. I'm a little bit daunted by it because I have never ever played with or touched or worked on one of these type decks before, and the fact we've got plastic parts, well, what were rubber parts which have gone hard and are breaking up, I don't know what I'm going to be able to do about that. The mechanism itself is nothing like anything I've ever worked on before. Like I said, I've serviced plenty of UK style decks, you know, BSRs, Garards, Claros, stuff like that, but nothing quite like this one. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there for now. I hope you enjoy it. Let's call this the part 1. Let's call this French HMV Marconi record player restoration part 1. We've had an initial assessment, and I'll come back to this thing, like I said, when I've got some more bits that we're going to need. Like I say, I'll see if I can find something we can replace that transformer with. I'm going to have to probably order something up to replace those capacitors with, and it would be really, really handy actually if I can possibly find a service manual for this thing, or at very, very least a service manual for that deck, for that mechanism, because I am not familiar with it at all. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there for now. I hope you enjoyed this little video, so I will say thanks for watching and goodbye.